This is what Elder Apostle Tahar has been saying. Pretty much it's a waste of time. This is what Elder. I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Chakadash. Welcome to another live lesson. You just heard the name of this. And pretty much the waste of time is going back and forth with these so-called Christians, because no matter what scriptures you bring out to show them that the Lord ain't dealing with all nations, they're still going to come up with their BS. The elder Karatazar had did a lesson on Galatians 3, and I believe it was the 8th verse, if I'm not mistaken, where vocab tried to use that to say that the other nations are justified by faith, which that's not the case. Those nations that are justified by faith are the Israelites. And then the Apostle did a response to it. So on my walk earlier, I got started with the lesson later than I wanted to, but I just wanted to make sure I had everything that I needed. So on my walk, I started thinking of some precepts and a particular scripture which you're going to go to. And it started just a cycle of events, in my mind or thoughts. And few scriptures came to mind, so I was kind of gathering them on my, different apps and on YouTube. I'm sorry, not YouTube, Google. And I just wanted to go through that. There's a chapter which we're going to go through, Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, which is the Song of Moses. And go through that to show you that this is dealing with the Israelites, and how, if you understand Deuteronomy 32, then you can understand the whole Gentile being saved in the New Testament being Israelites that became foreign. Okay? They became strangers to the covenants of Israel. They became strangers to everything because, when they had it, they didn't appreciate it. They weren't thankful for it. And the Lord stripped it from them and cast them out. So in process of time, that knowledge started to deteriorate, fall apart, and eventually forgotten. And that's pretty much what happened to those Israelites that were scattered among these nations. Some of them returned back to Israel, and some of them just went deep into the philosophies of these other nations. They were, assimilated, for lack of better words, into the culture, language, customs, religion, diet of whatever particular nation they came around. And the biggest thing that did Israel in pretty much was the worshiping of idols. And that's pretty much what fucked Jacob, because that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And then on top of it, they try to come to the Most High with all those, sacrifices that were, pretty much made the Lord even more angry, So he cast us all out of his sight, and then eventually he brought us back through his mercies, because he made a promise to Abraham that in his seed all nations of the earth will be blessed, which is talking about the Israelites, because the Lord knew that eventually he would scatter Israel throughout all four corners of the earth. And you don't need the whole nation of Israel to be saved in order to give that promise that he promised Abraham to them, because you could take a handful of Israelites, save them, especially the men, and you can bring back the rest that don't make it, because the promise is made sure to all of the seed of the nation of Israel, because all of that people shall be righteous. And the Lord was going to come back and take away all iniquity from Israel. But only in this time right now, only the elect will be saved. So the scripture in Deuteronomy 32, we're gonna try to go through the whole thing, or most of it, and go through different precepts and then go to, other precepts to match that. Some precepts came to mind as I was reading it and listening to it, and other precepts, I found, going through the blue letter and, getting some precepts off of there. So let's start off. Deuteronomy 32 and 1, the Song of Moses. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, and the words of my mouth. Why? Because this is the way that the Lord is gathering the elect of the nation of Israel from the four corners of the earth. There's no other way that the Lord is gathering them but by his word. We're just going to go hit a couple of points. This is Baruch 5 and 5. Arise, O Jerusalem, and stand on high. This is the Israelites. And look about toward the east, right? Because if you're looking toward the east, that means we would be in the west. And behold, thy children gathered from the west unto the east. By what? By the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the remembrance of their power, or in the remembrance of the Most High. Why? Because we forgot them. And when we got scattered among these nations, a lot of Israelites forgot. And the crazy thing is, the Americas pretty much stripped us of all knowledge of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Everything. We were very dry. The bones were very dry here in this country, or this corporation. All right, so going back, verse 2, my doctrine shall drop as the rain, right? Because you have the world's doctrine, which is being pushed mainly through plantation / Renaissance Christianity. And then you have the Lord's doctrine, which is the truth that came out of One West. And that's why they hate this so much. And that's why no matter how many times you tell them that we're not black Hebrew Israelites, they'll still keep saying it because that's a terminology of hate. They accuse us of hate, but then that's extreme hate that they have for us. That's why they keep calling us black Hebrew Israelites, the HBI, and all of this, or BHI, black Hebrew Israelites, and all of that, because it's extreme hatred. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, and this is what's happening. What does rain and dew? What does rain and dew do? It causes things to grow. And this is what's happening. The Lord is watering with his doctrine the minds of the elect of the nation of Israel to spring forth that seed of his word that has been put into the minds of the elect so that it can grow. It says, as the small rain upon the tender herb and as the showers upon the grass, because I will publish the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And this began with Yahweh Shai himself. Let me get a quick precept. This is the book of St. John, chapter 17 and verse 6, which goes hand in hand with Psalms 22. It says, I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. Right. And also not denied the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. That's why it said that the 144,000 had the names of his father and his son written in their foreheads. All right. So let me get rid of that. So back in Deuteronomy 32 and 2, because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our power. Right. So if you're going to ascribe greatness to the Heavenly Father, you have to ascribe greatness to his name. And that's why the name is so important. That's why it comes up so many times. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it comes up over 6,000 times in the Old Testament, I believe. if I'm not mistaken. Shalom and shalom, to the sincere Akim out there. Apurando el día, that's right. We're hastening the day. That's what apurando el día means, hastening the day. It says he is the rock, right? Because Yahweh is the rock. This is where we have our foundation, and we have a mediator and this is where the church is established upon, and the church is established upon the doctrine of Yahushua. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a power of truth, and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. This is dealing with the who? The Israelites. Because when you read Isaiah, the 5th chapter, this is the planting of the vineyard of the Lord. And it was planted, it was nourished, it was watered, it was, the Lord even said, what else could have been done, that wasn't already done? Everything was cultivated properly in the proper soil and everything. But then the Lord said it brought forth wild grapes. And that goes hand in hand with Romans 11 chapter. So they have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. See, so it says their spot is not the spot of his children. Why? Because they became strange. Let's see what it says in the NLT. But they have acted corruptly toward him when they act so perversely. See, and they really his children? Right? Because they look strange. It says they are deceitful and twisted generation. So let's see what it says for spot. Remember, the Lord said he doesn't want any spots or any blemishes. Their spot is not the spot of his children. So their spot is ma'awam blemish. See, spot, defect. There's another scripture in the Old Testament in the prophets where it speaks about the children having strange clothing, strange apparel. And that's what happened. The Lord gave us a set of law, statutes, commandments, instructions. He gave us a dress code. He gave us a dietary code. He gave us a ceremonial code. He gave us a moral code. And we put that aside and took on and wanted the customs of the other nations more than the customs of the Lord. And that's what made us strange to our power. And if you understand that, then you understand that we were casted out, but now we're being brought back. We became strange. So it says they have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation, which the Apostle Paul mentioned this in Philippians chapter 2 and verse 15. That you may be blameless and harmless, the sons of the Most High, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world. So although they are crooked, although they are wicked, although they are perverting the ways of the Lord, we, on the other hand, are shining brightly, as beacons, with the banner and with the light of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Well, they are a crooked generation, which lets you know that all these precepts that you find in the New Testament. A lot of precepts that the Apostle Paul was speaking about were directly taken from Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. And you're going to see that as we progress into the lesson. So it says, do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish and unwise? Foolish and unwise. Let's go from there and you can see it's speaking about Israel, but we've given you even more proof. Jeremiah 4 and 22, one of Elder Apostle Gabar's favorites. For my people is what? Foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children, or stupid children, or drunken children. And they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. You look up the word sottish, is stupid. And when you get drunk, you get stupid. The word is sakal, fool. And why are they fools? Because they forsook the Lord and they took on the philosophies of the other nations and became drunk, and that made them fools. As to at one point we were wise, right? But the Lord made Jake fools by taking on the customs of the other nations, you know. So they became a bunch of fools. You must be leading a bunch of fools. Deuteronomy 32:6, do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath brought thee, and hath he not made thee and established thee? So the Lord established us. He keeps us. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leadeth me by the still waters. So if we forsake the Lord is going to forsake us and cast us off. And there will be no surety. That's where the curses came in. So it says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations, ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam. Why? Because he had a chosen seed, a chosen line that he was going to go through. That's why you had Shem, Ham, Japheth. Shem was chosen. Then from Shem, he had 5 sons. The lineage or the chosen line went through Arphaxad. Then it went down through Peleg, and it kept going down through was it Terah, which was the father of Abraham, if I'm not mistaken. And then from Abraham it went to Isaac and to Jacob. So it took time for that line and that promise to be fulfilled. And the Lord was picking that line of that seed particularly because Abraham had 3 sons. I'm sorry, not Abraham. Terah had 3 sons. It was Abram, which was his name originally, Haran, and Nahor, I believe it was. All right. And then Haran died. That's why you have the land of Haran or Haran in Syria, which is where they dwelt at when they were on their journey from Ur of the Chaldees. Then they went further south and they sojourned in the land of Israel before the land was even inhabited by the Israelites, before the Lord even gave it to them. Because the old inhabitants, which were the Canaanites, were still in that land. All right. So it went from his 3 sons. He was a chosen. And from him, it went to his son Isaac, because Abraham himself had 8 sons. But none of those sons were part of the promise except for one, which is Isaac. And then from Isaac, he had 2 sons, Jacob and Esau, and the line ended at Jacob. Okay. And that's why the Lord set it up that way. And he made it meticulous. And then in process of time, when the nation grew and we went into captivity into Egypt, he raised up Moses and gave to Moses laws, statutes, and commandments to give to the Israelites. And he said, keep and do these laws, statutes, and commandments, because this is going to be your wisdom in the sight of the nations. They're going to look at you and they're going to say, what nation is so great as the Israelites? But here it is. These wacky-tacky Christians want to do away with the Israelites. So he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Right. So he gave the nations their lands and their portions of lands and their inheritances before Israel got the land. But Israel got the best land. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance, and that has never changed, and that will never change. Because in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah 19, it speaks about 3 nations. The Assyrians, the Egyptians, and Israel. But then in the New Testament, it only speaks about the Jews and the Greeks. So did the Lord change? Here. He found them in the desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye, most precious possession. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. Right. This is the great escape that happened. The Lord bore us on, our forefathers on eagle's wings out of Egypt into the wilderness. He did the same thing when the Romans came into the Romans, Edomites, or the abomination of desolation that came into Jerusalem and defiled the land and defiled the temple and burnt the temple down. All right. So that was a great escape. And this time he's going to do it again, a great escape, but this time it's going to be by the chariot of Yahushua. And that's going to be, that's what you call going out in style. Okay, yep. Genesis 11:26, and Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Okay, so that's the three. Yep. The water elder. It says, so the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. So it was Yahweh that led us, right? Led our forefathers, and there was no strange God with him. But what happened? Jake started to see as our forefathers were going into the land, right? They started to see the manners of the nations. They started to see how they were worshiping. The Lord warned Jake, look, do not do after the manner of the nations, because what they're doing is the same thing. This is the same reason why I'm kicking them out of the land that they're in now to give it to you. So if you do the same thing that they're doing, you're going to suffer the same fate. But it didn't stick. God damn. He made him ride on high places of the earth, right? Because there was deliverance. Nothing could touch us at that time. That he might eat the increase of the fields, and he made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock. Butter of kine and milk of sheep with fat of lambs and rams, the breed of Bashan and goats. And I was asking Elder Dimash, I said, damn, I asked him if he ever had ram before. He said, no. I said, damn, that probably some good ass meat. With the fat of kidneys of wheat, and thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. Shalom, Elder Dimash. All right, be safe out there. It says, verse 15, but Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. See, so Jake waxed fat, they kicked. This is hip talk, parabolic talk, hip talk, which means that they just chillaxed. They were lamping. They were lamping. They were cold lamping. Salakia. You know, so they were chilling pretty much. Thou art waxing fat, because they had everything. Thou art grown thick. Thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook the Most High, which made him. So Jake, they were doing good. When Jake does bad, what happens? The Lord said, I will go and return to my place until they acknowledge their offense. In their affliction, they will seek me early. So when Jake's doing good, they don't think about the Most High. But when they find out that they got some type of cancer or some type of disease, or that they're about to go to jail for a very long time, all of a sudden they want to walk with the biggest Bible. You know, they want to be the most devout, the most pious, the most, worshipful individual that there is. But when they're doing good, they don't think about the Most High like that. You know? And lightly esteem the rock of his salvation. So the Lord said, okay, I'm the one that got the force field around you. You wanna puff at me? I got something for you. It says they provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, and that's what pissed the Most High off the most. The mostest is when you went and you worshiped those other gods. With abominations provoked they him to what? To anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not to the Most High, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. So now, let's go from there real quick, to the book of Psalms, and we're going to come back to that. Psalms 106 and 34. This is an excellent chapter. It says, they did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them. Because you go back to Deuteronomy 1, 2, 3, 4, and all 7. It tells you when you go to these nations, destroy the men, women, children, destroy everything and everything that you see, destroy it, destroy them. Jake didn't do that. But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. And this is, when they learned their works, what happened? They became them. Okay? So when they became like those nations, they became strange. They had strange apparel. They were abominable to the Lord. So the Lord said, no more. You're not my people anymore. And that's what these wacky tacky Christians, either they know it and refuse to accept it, or they can't see it. Israel became, a no people to the Most High. But then the Most High returned back his mercy because of his man Abraham, and made a way for certain ones of them to give back to him. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Right, so it was a trap unto Jake. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. Right, you had Molech. And the land was what? Polluted with blood. So the Lord can't have that, because he's of purer eyes than to behold iniquity. Thus were they defiled with their own works. So what happened? They became strange. Okay? And went a whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of the Lord kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance, and gave them into the hand of the heathen, and they that hated them ruled over them. And so on and so forth. You can read the rest. Now, before we go to this precept, I want to segue back to Deuteronomy 32 and 17. We're going to read this again. They sacrifice unto devils, not to the Most High. Who did this? Israel did this. 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 20 says, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils. So who is this addressed to? This is addressed to the Israelite foreigners in Corinth. The actual nations, they worship devils. And that's what Jake did in Deuteronomy 32 and many other scriptures. In Psalms 106 chapter, it was a recounting of what was going on during the Israel's time when they started to get the land, and not to the Most High. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. So the Lord is telling these Corinthians, which were Israelites, Israelite foreigners that were being called Corinthians, not to have fellowship, because they used to do that. That's why in the 12th chapter says, you were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. But now that you turned away from that, you're no longer, in that Gentile state of mind. Now you're coming back to your fold. Now you're coming back to who you really are. And this is done by the mercy of Yahweh and by the great sacrifice of his son, Yahweh Shai. So you're able to come back through grace by your faith. And not to God. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the tables of devils. So this is dealing with who? The Israelites. So the Apostle Paul was speaking to these Israelite foreigners that forsook the Lord, just like Jake did back here. And most likely in the reincarnation, these Corinthians, some of them were the same people that were back here doing the same shit. And the Lord punished them. And if they would have proceeded in there, there's going to be judgment upon them. Deuteronomy 32 and 17, they sacrificed unto devils and not to the Most High, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. That's why I'm not sure what year Kwanzaa came out, right? It's fairly new. But who's worshiping that? Jake. All into that Kwanzaa shit. Now, I don't worship Christmas, but you worship Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa's not in the scriptures. Anything that comes up new, you package it right, you give them a song and dance and a story to go with it, they own it like a hornet, doggone it. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful and hast forgotten the power that formed thee. And Jake forgot the power that formed him. Now, let's go from there. Let's go to Jeremiah 2. And we're going to come back here, Lord's will, a little later. Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, "Hath the nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods?" And the answer to that is no. These nations have gods that they've been worshiping for centuries, for millennium. I mean, the names may have changed, but it's the same old gods that they've been worshiping going all the way back. Especially when you look at the manners and the customs, the so-called rites, and the ways that they worship these gods. They go all the way back to those ancient gods, those ancient deities. But my people have changed their glory for that which did not profit, which is what? Those idols. That's what the Lord said. Hey, when you find yourself in trouble, then go to those gods and pray to them. See if they can help you. So going back, Deuteronomy 32:18, of the rock that begat them, thou wert unmindful and hast forgotten the power that formed thee. All right. It says, and when when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them, meaning he avoided them. Oh man, cast them out of my sight. I can't bear to even look at these clowns. I brought up children, and look what the hell they became. Look what they became. Because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. That's why the Lord said he cast us out of that land. And he said, I will hide my face from them. And that's why that force field, invisible force field, the angels of the Lord encamping around about them that fear them to deliver them, to fear him to deliver them, was taken away. And these nations were able to encroach, to throw a $10 word at you, upon Israel, and be able to put their hands on Israel, because the Lord removed that hedge. I will see what the end shall be. And what happened? Jake fell under the nations, the curses took hold of him, and the rest is history. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. And that's why, it couldn't be done by the works of the law. So now it's done by faith through grace. What is the faith? The belief in what the Lord said. What is the grace? The door of mercy that was open to us to get back to the Father through the actual door, which is Yahushua, the mediator. So, verse 21, it says, they have moved me to jealousy with that which is not the Most High. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, which are these idols, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. And who's that? Those are the Israelite foreigners, which the Jews in Jerusalem consider them to just be totally devoid of any help, totally gone. They had no hope, as it says in Ephesians 2. They had no hope. They were gone. But through Yahushua, there was a remnant of them that was brought back. So now let's go from there to Isaiah, real quick, 65 and 1. I am sought of them that ask not for me. Right. So these are the Israelite foreigners that were not seeking the Lord. Why? Because they were seeking the idols. And then when the door was open to them, beginning with Cornelius, then there was great gladness. When you go to Acts 13, and those Gentiles or Israelite foreigners, they were glad that a door was open to them because of the mercies of Yahushua. And they believed that. But the Jews, which had a curriculum, which had a law system in place with customs and traditions, they were angry because those traditions were being changed for the truth. And the Apostle Paul said, look, and Barnabas said, look, since you don't want this, look, we wipe our hands, and pretty much we're going to turn to the Gentiles, the Israelite foreigners. We'll teach them since you don't want it. You know what that was? That was some psychological ill shit. because that made them want it even more. And that's why they came back the next Sabbath, to try to stir up ruckus. So it says, I am sought of them. You can read Acts the 13th chapter for that. I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me unto a nation that was not called by my name. Why? Because they were a no people. Just bear with me. I'm just writing something down. Okay. Now let's go back here. Let's read this again. Deuteronomy 32:21. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not the Most High. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a what? A foolish nation. What is a foolish nation? The Israelites that forsook the Lord. And I believe the Apostle Paul actually quoted this in the book of Romans 10. Let's see. Yep. Deuteronomy 10. I'm sorry. Deuteronomy. Got Deuteronomy on the brain. Romans 10:19. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. This is going back to where we're reading in the book of Deuteronomy 32. And those no people, that foolish nation, are the Israelites that forsook the Lord, that became a no people, that became strangers, that had strange apparel. All right? There's many precepts you could go to for all of that. So let's go back. Deuteronomy 32:22. For a fire is kindled in mine anger and shall burn unto the lowest hell. So the Lord was angry and pissed off, and shall consume the earth with their increase and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. And that's why he set up a way for the Israelite foreigners and for Israel to be able to have mercy to get back, so that they could be a remainder or a remnant of them, or an election that can get the promise of Abraham, because the Most High is not going to go against his word. Not even for his great name's sake. Salaki for that. I will heap mischief upon them. I will spend mine arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them with the poison of serpents of the dust. Right? And Jake got, Jake was getting effed up. The sword without and terror within. And you see that even to this day. To this day. The sword without and terror within. And even in the law, it shows us, matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Deuteronomy 28. And these curses that are written from the 16th verse on down, all of these took hold of Jake in one captivity or another, especially today. No, but that ain't talking about the so-called Negroes and Latinos and Native American Indians. Okay, you believe that if you want to. Deuteronomy 28:64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. That's why the Lord said, in thee shall all nations of the earth be blessed. Why? Because those nations that would be blessed would be the Israelites. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone, which today, at one point it was dealing with the actual idols. Today is dealing with these churches and these different religious practices that Jake follows, whether it's the Muslims or whether it's the House of Consciousness, Christianity, Roman Catholicism, so on and so forth. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, no rest, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there what? A trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. Okay? And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say with the Most High, it were evening, and at evening thou shalt say with the Most High, it were morning. So when you get up in the morning, Lord, will I make it to the evening? When you get up, when you get through the evening, and you're at home, Lord's will I make it to the next day, to the morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. All right. And Jake, is hopeless in a lot of different cases because of the condition that they've been subjected to. So back in Deuteronomy 32:25, the sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. Right, because there's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no prejudice. Bullets, death, no prejudice in that. The Lord take out whoever he wants to take out. I said I would what? Scatter them into corners. What does this go into? This goes into, being in the ghettos, in the worst part of the cities. You could see Gad. Gad is fucked up. You think you got it bad in the hood and in the barrio. Gad got it fucked up out there. I mean, they live in the ultimate slums and that on the rest. They showed documentaries of Gad, how they live out there. They through. And this is their land. Let's go from there real quick to Numbers, real quick. Numbers 23. So you can see. No, I didn't mean to do that. Numbers 23 and 9. It says, for from the top of the rocks I see him, this is Balaam speaking, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone. Yeah, because we're not recognized with the other nations. And trust and believe that they know who the fuck we are. That's why they make it hard for us, to get ahead. Now, you have exceptions to the rules. You have those that apply themselves and become sambos and sell out. And, some of them, do study and get certain, advancements, in life. But that's very far and few in between. For the most part, as a whole, Jake is fucked up. It says, and shall not be reckoned among the nations, meaning we would not be recognized among the nations. That's why no one recognizes who we are. Now, as far as entertainment goes, you can entertain, have them laughing. They love that. But when you become serious and you tell them who you really are and you start really digging in to their soul with these words, then they got a problem. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 32 and 26. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. And that happened. Because it's so bad that nobody today recognizes, who the Israelites are, that we are the Israelites. They'll say that any other nation could be Israelites except for us. You had this, I forget what year that was. The Naked Archaeologist, he did a documentary on the Discovery Channel where they were going to the 12 lost tribes. I think it was either 12 lost tribes, I believe it was called, something like that. And he went to remote parts of Asia, among the Moabites and all these different nations. Everywhere they went was no Israelites. They weren't, in other words, he didn't not once mention the so-called Negroes, the Latinos, Native American Indians. It was everybody else except for who the people are. So we're not recognized. That's why when we tell these devils that we are the Israelites, they'll be like, you ain't the Israelites. Those are the Israelites over there in the land of Israel over there. Because we're not recognized among these nations. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest the adversaries should behave themselves strangely. Right, who is this? That's Esau. Behaving themselves strangely. Pretty much acting like they're us, and also acting as if they're the ones that were able to bring us down to this destitute state. No, the only reason why you were able to bring us down to this destitute state is because the Lord forsook us, because we forsook him first. It says, and least they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord have not done all this. Right. They think that by the power of their hand, they really brought us down. These devils really believe that they single-handedly took down Gad and Reuben and and Issachar to take this land, and the other tribes. They think they actually did that by their power. They don't realize that the Lord stripped us of our power, stripped us, of that hedge. That's why Achior said that. When you read the book of Judith, he said that, look, one thing I know is if these people are in good with their power, you better leave them alone because he's going to fight for them. But if they do something wrong and piss him off and go astray from his laws, then he's not going to help them. Then that's the time when you can strike. And you best believe that the tops of these nations, they know this. It says, at least they should say, our hand is high and the Lord hath not done all this. Right, so they think that they did it on their own. For they are a nation void of counsel, meaning the Israelites are a nation void of counsel. Neither is there any understanding in them. There's no understanding in Jake. That's why it says here in Isaiah, matter of fact, let me go here, Isaiah chapter, actually I read this already, but that's all right. Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3. The ox knoweth his own. Matter of fact, I started at 2. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. This is the Israelites. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel does not know, my people does not consider. So Jake doesn't even consider who their power is. They don't acknowledge the Most High. All right. So going back, Deuteronomy 32:28. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. And look at where the fuck we're at. THUUU. Fucked up. Oh, by the way, the lesson I did yesterday, who's going to pay for this? They age restricted my video. And then they gave me the time marker, the timestamp. It was 14 minutes and 44 seconds, right? And all I was doing was showing, pictures of what these devils were doing, and they age restricted it, which I always put, that this is not, meant for anyone under 18. I always click on that just to be on the safe side. But they age restricted it. So when you go to that video now, you got to confirm that you're 18 or over so you can watch it. These devils are too much, man. They hate when this truth comes out. They hate it. They hate it. They hate it. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Inside joke. That they will consider their latter end, and Jake did not consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000? Shows you this talking about Israel, because this is part of the curses. It says one shall chase 1,000. Whereas one time, one of us would chase them down by the King David himself and the mighty men. They were taking down, hundreds of men by themselves. How should one chase 1,000 and put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them and the Lord had shut them up? And this is why, we fell to Esau, because the Lord shut us up. He put a blocker on us. He just said, talk to the hand because the face doesn't want to hear it. It says, for their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. Right. Their rock, which is their gods, are not as our power. But yet Jake turned to that because of the glitz and the glamour. They like all that, the frills and the way that everything came. It was just packaged so nicely. That woman arrayed, that harlot that was arrayed in harlot's apparel, and she was smelling all good and all that. She was all painted up, looking good, but there was no substance there. That's how these nations are. It says, for their vine is as the vine of Sodom, and their fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. This is dealing with Jake. Now I'm going to show you that. Let's start off in Psalms chapter 80, and verse. We're gonna start at the 8th verse. We're gonna read a couple of verses on this to the end. It's not that many. Psalms chapter 80, verse 8. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt, that's Israelites. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. Thou preparest room before it, and didst cause it to take a deep root, and it filled the land. You can read Isaiah 5 also. It speaks about this vineyard. It says the hills were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like the goodly cedars, because we were, you know, I forget how it's worded. Israel was something unto me. I can't think of the wording, but it was just like pleasant, like when a man first gets a virgin, and it's a beautiful woman, and he's all into her. That's what we were to the Lord, and then we just turn into some fucked up individuals. She sent out her boughs unto the sea, and her branches unto the river, because we spread out. Why hast thou then broken down her hedges? Right, because the Lord took his hedge away from us. He took the angels and that invisible wall, that invisible shield away from us. So we were open game to the nations. So that all they which pass by the way do pluck her. The boar out of the wood doth waste it, that's dealing with the nations, and the wild beast of the field doth devour it, dealing with the nations. And also, Jake, was getting mauled by wild animals. Return, we beseech thee, O power of hosts, look down from heaven and behold and visit thy vine. And that's what we're reading in Deuteronomy 32, the first couple of verses, that the Lord's going to distill his word like dew, and this is the word of Yahweh Bashem Shai going out throughout the four corners of the earth through the unicorn, which is the internet, to gather his elect from among all nations. And it doesn't matter what you look like. It all matters if your line goes back to the Israelites, one of the 12 tribes. And the vineyard which thy right hand had planted, and the branch that thou madest strong for thyself, it is burned with fire. Why? Because the nations, well, first of all, it became degenerate, as we're going to read, but also the nations put an end to it. It is cut down, they perish at the rebuke of thy countenance. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy right hand, upon the son of man whom thou madest strong for thyself. So will not we go back from thee. Quicken us, and we will call upon thy name. And that's why the first thing that Yahweh gave to his disciples was what? The name of the Lord. When he set up that prayer. He said that's what he gave them their name, because when you go back to Psalm 22, he said, I will declare thy name among my brethren. Turn us again, O Yahweh Bashem Shai, power of hosts, cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. And that's why it's good to put the anointing prayer upon yourselves, number 6:22 on down. Main point is from 24 down. You can start around 22, and that's a heavy prayer. All right. So let's go from there to Jeremiah 2, which you brothers already know of. This is how 5% of the time in the Old Testament, you could apply the word Nakar or Bun Nakar to Israelite foreigners, because Jake became strange, Deuteronomy 32, and many others, a strange apparel, so on and so forth. Jeremiah 2:21, yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. So the Lord planted us wholly a right seed. There was nothing else that could be done. He even said, what else could have been done that I didn't do? Let me know. Was there something I missed? And the answer to that is no. It says, how then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? And when you look up this word strange, it goes back to the Hebrew word nakarya, which means that when Jake went into the customs of these nations, started worshiping their idols and their traditions, that made us strange to the Lord. We became like the Bun Nakar, like the actual heathen. And that's why the Jews in Jerusalem, which were known as the circumcision, looked upon these Israelites with great disdain. You have to know that history in order to understand the mystery of the Gentiles. Okay? Now, Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go from there to Hosea chapter 10 and verse 1. It says, Israel is an empty vine. He bringeth forth fruit unto himself. According to the multitude of his fruit, he hath increased the altars. According to the goodness of his land, they have made goodly images. See? So pretty much they are an empty vine because there's no good fruit on there. The fruit is corrupt because of the wicked practices that Jake got into. Their heart is divided, now shall they be found faulty. He shall break down their altars, and he shall spoil their images. So Jake became what? Faulty. Became degenerate. Became strange vine. Brought forth wild grapes. Brought forth, the wild olives, as it states in Romans, the 11th chapter. Now let's go from there to Isaiah chapter 1, back to Isaiah 1, right? Hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom. This is the Lord speaking to Israel. The Most High has had enough. We read the first verse on down that this was directed to the Israelites. The Lord brought up people, the Israelites, they don't regard the Most High. He saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, okay? So the Lord just got fed up. Isaiah 1 and 10. Hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the law of our power, ye people of Gomorrah. You became just bugged out, for lack of better words. You became strange unto the Lord. You became heathenistic. The Lord couldn't stand to look at our people back then because of all the foul shit you did. And some of them even went into that lifestyle of Sodom and Gomorrah, that debaucherous lifestyle. Let's go to Romans. Go to Romans chapter 1. And this is the Apostle Paul speaking to the Israelites, the strangers in Rome, which were Israelites that were being brought back to the fold, that were living those foul, filthy lifestyles. Romans chapter 1 and 7. To all that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints. The saints are the Israelites. Grace to you and peace from the power, our Father and the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. Now we jump down to the 28th verse. It says, and even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge. When they were Israelites, when they knew that they were Israelites, before they became strangers, before they became this degenerate vine, they didn't like to retain the knowledge of the Most High in their mind. The nations never had the knowledge of the Most High in their mind. The nations don't know the Most High. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 25, I believe it is. Come on. Jeremiah 10:25, I just went here not too long ago. Pour out thy fury upon the heathen, the actual heathens that know thee not, and upon the families that call not upon thy name, for they have eaten up Jacob and devoured him and consumed him and have made his habitation desolate. So pour your fury upon these heathens. They don't know you. They never knew the Lord. All right. So Romans 1:28, and even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, these Israelite foreigners that the Apostle Paul is addressing in Rome, just like he addressed them in Ephesus, just like he addressed them in Philippi, just like he addressed them in Colossus, just like he addressed them in Thessalonica, just like he addressed them in Berea, everywhere that the Apostle Paul went to. They had different things that they were doing in different churches, and he didn't have to tell each church the same thing over and over again. Well, the Apostle Paul, he only said that to the Corinthians about the long hair. He didn't say that to anybody else. Yeah, but that applies to everybody, because there are other parts of those epistles that the Apostle Paul said, when this is read at so-and-so church, make sure you send it to the other churches. The nerve of certain individuals. Just because you don't want to comply to the scriptures, you want to find excuses. Even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, the Most High gave them what? Over to a reprobate mind to do those things which were not convenient. And it goes into all this different foul stuff that Jake was doing. Now let's go from there to prove that this is talking about Israel even further. Let's go to Psalms, back to Psalms, 81st chapter, and the 11th and 12th verse. But my people, who? The Israelites, would not hearken to my voice. And Israel would none of me, in case you don't know, it's talking about all people, his people. Israel would none of me. So I, the Most High, gave them up unto their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsels. Romans 1:28 again. And even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, when they knew that they were Israelites, when they were following the law, statutes, and commandments, which they stopped following, the Most High, gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which were not convenient. And that's why Jake became, a strange vine unto the Lord. Okay? And that's why in the prophets, which the Apostle Paul quoted to the Jews concerning the Israelite foreigners, this is written. Habakkuk 1 and 5. Behold ye among the heathen. Who's among the heathen? The Israelites. The ones that were following the customs of the nations, that became strange, that became degenerates, that brought forth wild grapes. And regard and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days which you will not believe, though it be told you. And what's that work that he's going to work in your days? Meaning he's going to bring back the Israelite foreigners from among the nations, no matter what it was that they were doing. As long as they were part of the elect, they were going to be brought back to the fold. You see? So you get it. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 32 and 33. Matter of fact, I'll read 32 again. For their vine is as the vine of Sodom, and their fields of Gomorrah. Jake, their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Right. And they bring in what? They're bringing forth wild grapes. They're bringing forth a wild olive tree, wild olives. Their wine is a poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asps. Right. That's dealing with their philosophies, the things that drew them away, the worshiping, devils, at the table of devils. And that's why the Apostle Paul said, you can't do that and serve the Lord. You can't straddle the fence. And that's what this guy, Constantine, was doing. He was straddling the fence. He was a pagan that accepted Christianity, and then he allowed the pagans to worship their pagan worship, and the Christians to worship Christianity. So he was straddling the fence. Is it not laid up in store with me, and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time. And that happened to Jake. But all the tribes, their foot slid in due time. They were removed out of the land. First, the northern kingdom by the Assyrians, and later the southern kingdom eventually was finally taken out of that land for good during the time of the Romans. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. Because once it goes out of the Lord's mouth, it's already in motion. For the Lord shall judge his people, the Israelites, and repent himself for his servants, which he that their power is gone, and there is none shut up or left. And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock in whom they trusted? So go to them, see if they can protect you, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings. Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. Because the Most High is our protection. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. See now that I, even I am he, And there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and mine hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me. And that's where the Lord jacked Israel up. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges upon the enemies. Now, this verse here, right? Let me see what it says, and I'm gonna read it like it is. Then we're gonna go back and examine something here, because I did a lesson on this back during the Daily Motion days. When we were doing videos on Daily Motion for a couple of years. So I'm gonna read it as it is. I'm gonna go through some of the Bible, see what it says, and then I'm gonna explain what it is. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. So then everybody's looking, well, that said the nations, rejoice the nations with his people. Well, let's see what it says in the NLT. Rejoice with him, you heavens, and let all the God's angels worship him. Rejoice with his people, you nations. Nope. Rejoice, you nations, with his people. Nope. Now I'm going to show you something. When you look through here, rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, with is italicized. Italicized, I mean, you see how it's slanted towards the right? That means it's italicized. And when you see the scriptures in the Bible or in the blue letter, wherever you go, italicized, that means just this right here. I'm going to show you. With, there's no entry. That's an addition. All right. That's not a part of, the actual, but in the English, you have to add certain things. But there's no word here for with, because the word for with is ath. It doesn't say, rejoice, O ye nations, ath, his people, or with his people. There's nothing there. So that was an addition. If you look here in the Hebrew portion of it, Haran Yanawa, Gawayim, nations, Aimwa, his people. So it should read, rejoice, O ye nations, his people. Because you have Israelites that would be scattered throughout all the nations of the planet, just like the Lord said that would happen. And you go back, the elder Apostle Tahar mentioned Joseph and Ephraim, many nations coming out of him. You go back to Jacob, the Lord said that many nations shall come up, a nation and a company of nations shall come out of thee. So this is dealing with the Israelites, not with any other nation. All right. And that's, you can read the rest. Is just, going back to what that Moses told Israel, these words. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. These Christians, they're desperate, and although Pastor Lynn did, present a good argument, right? But it doesn't stand under scrutiny, because he tried to use proselytes that converted to calling themselves Jews because they were in fear for their life for what the Israelites would do to them if they made Israel mad. It's totally different from the proselytes in the New Testament who were convinced by the word to leave, whether they left the customs that they were worshiping, like the ones that the Apostle Paul was teaching, or whether they were following, the established rule of Israel under this, what they call the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and them, and left that and turned and worshiped Yahushai. Okay? So you failed, my man. Even though it sounded good, you were looking good because some individuals didn't know how to deal with you, you were still at fault. And you're still wrong. You erred not knowing the scriptures. Good try, though. Sounded very convincing to those that don't have the understanding, but you failed, my man. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.